XCOM: The Long War is a popular mod for the critically acclaimed game XCOM Enemy Unknown and the Enemy Within DLC. It makes your game longer, harder, adds in new features, and will almost certainly make you pull out your hair in frustration. Your experienced soldiers will die, you will fail missions, but if you press on with sound tactics and determination, you should be able to emerge victorious from the Long War. This video will be giving tips on how to accomplish this feat of victory. Your first challenge in the Long War will be squad management. Every trooper requires rest after a mission before they can be brought on future operations. However, this is mostly just a recommendation and not a requirement. You can bring along fatigued troopers on future missions. The only penalty is that after the mission they will be slightly wounded and require some forced medical attention before they can be brought back into service once more. There's no penalty during the mission for fatigued troopers. It is just a post-mission recovery time. Another squad management challenge you may find yourself in is just straight up lack of manpower. You will almost certainly wind up with wounded and dead troopers during missions, so make sure your barracks are stocked up with replacement privates at all times. When selecting troopers for missions, try to spread out the training. Bring along some high-leveled soldiers with the privates and specs. If a mission is particularly critical or difficult, then sure, bring along the A-team. But otherwise, it is better to have some troops in reserve. After the first few missions, you should never put yourself in a position where you have only privates available for a mission. All that being said, you also need to be selective in your troopers. Hire additional squad members as early as you can, as ideally you will want to level up privates with high base aim. As they level up, you can easily end up with snipers and infantrymen with over 100 base aim. With equipment bonuses applied, they can have nearly a 100% chance to hit anything, regardless of enemy cover. A private with 70 plus aim should be part of your A-team roster. Privates between 65 and 70 aim are good B-team candidates. 60 to 65 is your C team, and anyone below 60 aim can't hit the broadside of a cyber disc if their life depended on it. During the missions themselves, you'll certainly soon find yourself outnumbered and outgunned. You must plan your moves carefully, staying in defensive positions where possible, and using battle scanners to scout ahead for enemy pods. Set up Overwatch traps for protection. In the early game, Overwatch significantly increases your chances of killing enemies on the first turn of an encounter. Never, never, never move forward unless you are ready for an encounter with the enemy. It is more preferable to move backwards into a more defensible position and let the enemies come to you. In many cases, only one or two will approach per turn, allowing you to kill them one at a time with less risk to you. And plan your trooper loadout. Bring along one or two extra battle scanners, a smoke grenade or two, and some HE and AP grenades. Scopes are very important as well. If every trooper carries one scope and one grenade, your aim chances will be much greater on the shots you will take, and you will still have the opportunity to use supporting grenades appropriately when they are needed. HE grenades are quite important in this respect, as they can destroy cover, letting your other troopers take higher aim flanking shots. Capturing mutons early is critically important in this regard, as alien grenades on a sapper engineer are absolutely critical to reliably destroying enemy cover, particularly when you have no good rocket shots available. It should also be noted that in the endgame, you cannot make plasma weapons without having captured one alien weapon for each plasma weapon you wish to make. This includes any plasma weapons, including the interceptor plasma. Luckily though, you do not technically need plasma weapons. Your firestorms can use EMP cannons eventually, and you can get pulse lasers for your troopers, which are pretty close. All in all, you should capture enemies whenever you have the opportunity to do it, as early as possible. As for how to equip each trooper, snipers should be equipped with a scope and laser sight. They should be kept back, away from combat, so getting their aim percentages as high as possible is important. If they are not firing on a turn, have them steady weapon instead of Overwatch. Nothing should ever get in their visual range from your sides or from behind you, so you want their first shot in an encounter to be as high as possible. Infantry as well can take 2 shots in a single turn, so you should get their aim percentages as high as possible. Sure, you can take 1 shot and then throw a grenade, but it is much more efficient to boost their aim as high as possible and use another unit, such as an engineer, to throw the grenade instead. Infantrymen make great overwatchers. Their perks allow them to overwatch twice in 1 turn with no aim penalties and with critical hit chances. Speaking of grenades, engineers should have 1 or 2 of their item slots be grenades. HE and AP to start, but alien grenades are substantially superior to both later on. Rocketeers should carry an extra rocket, as they are long range, tremendously damaging, and can substantially shift combat in your favor. A single shredder rocket with a heat ammo rocketeer can destroy several drones and or seekers in a single turn, as well as doing damage to the main protected unit, such as a cyberdisk or mechtoid, or later on sectopods. Since Rocketeer's accuracy with rockets is directly tied to their aim stat, have them steady weapon instead of Overwatch at the end of a turn to have a higher percentage rocket shot after discover enemies. Equipping them with carbines also makes the rocket shots more accurate. Assaults are made for shotguns, but it is not a requirement to have one. You can give them breaching ammo in one of their item slots to make shotguns do more damage to heavily armored enemies, especially robotic ones. Give scouts the battle scanner perk when you can. Having 2 free battle scanners means you can save 2 item slots in other units, and the other perk options are terrible, to be honest. If you want flush, give it to the assault. Giving scouts the holo targeting perk is also a good move, as they can take the first shot on a turn and give everyone else the aim bonus if they do not get the kill. On gunners, I like holo targeting again, and executioner. With double tap, they can holo target 2 enemies in a turn. Since they are heavy damage dealers and have tons of ammo, I tend to give them scopes and laser sights, and alloy bipods whenever possible. Medics, I like having smoke grenades and suppression. They can toss a smoke and suppress a unit in the same turn, possibly saving you a ton of trouble if you get caught in a bad situation. Suppression is also a great counter to heavy robotic enemies like mechtoids, cyberdisks, and sectopods. Sectopods will never move if they have a shot. Cyberdisks are likely to just overwatch, and mechtoids can do anything, but if you can't kill it in one turn, why not just suppress it and increase your chances? Gunners start with suppression, but they can do a lot of damage with their shots, so I prefer to not have them suppress if I can help it. Mech troopers are expensive as hell. Just one level 3 mech suit costs 125 mil and well over 1,000 credits, even with some workshops active. Gene modification should really be spread out over all your troopers, unless you are specifically only Gmodding your A-team. Giving out gene mods to your troopers is a bit of a commitment to their life, so the secondary heart gene mod is very handy for helping ensure their survival. But there's one unit that has reached the pinnacle of usefulness in the long war: shivs. Just like in vanilla XCOM, shivs can be upgraded with an ability called Sentinel Drone, which is a Foundry project you get from the Cyberdisk Autopsy. This allows all of your shivs to automatically repair 2 health per turn, forever. This makes them the perfect tanks, as they can easily absorb enemy hits and just repair back to full health given enough time. They can even be repaired with the arc thrower in desperate situations, with the appropriate Foundry project, of course. Over the course of longer missions, especially the enemy base assaults, this is extremely useful. But the Sentinel module's 2 health per turn auto repair has one disadvantage. If an enemy scores a critical hit on the shiv, there's a chance it will knock out the Sentinel module for the remainder of the mission. The obvious solution to this would just be to give them the core armoring item to make a shiv immune to critical hits. This also has the benefit of improving their survivability substantially. You can get this item from the Mobile Power Armor Research Project, which you get from the Advanced Body Armor and Illyrium research projects, so the research will take some time to complete. Unfortunately for this strategy, whether by a bug or by design, an ultra rare hit on a shiv may still disable the Sentinel module, even with the core armoring item. After dozens of missions and possibly hundreds of shots fired at a shiv, this has only happened to me once, as depicted here. This shiv was used to bait out 2 overwatches from 2 mechtoids, one of which hit and disabled the Sentinel module. Fortunately, I had plenty of arc thrower charges to spare, so I simply repaired the shiv to full health and continued on to finish the mission. Shivs are still tremendously useful, and it is a good idea to bring 1 or 2 along on a mission when you can. Alloy shivs in particular have a built-in 2.5 damage reduction, and you can get them relatively early in the game. Alien materials and improved body armor are all that you need to unlock the alloy shiv, and they are extremely useful all the way through to the end of the game. They also serve as cover for your troops, and an alien will almost always prefer to fire upon an alloy shiv and not the trooper taking cover behind it. Once you find heavy floaters, you can autopsy them and get the alloy carbide plating shiv item unlocked, which increases their damage reduction even further, making them oftentimes immune to the low power shots of sectoids and thin men, and able to tank multiple enemies at once. Laboratories and workshops are very important. Getting research done as quickly as possible is very, very important. Build the gene lab, if you build one, next to the laboratories for adjacency bonuses. The same goes for workshops and the foundry and cybernetics labs. Build your power stations adjacent to one another, eventually replacing them for Illyrium generators if you need more space. Same goes for the satellite uplinks. This 2x3 arrangement is what you are aiming for, as it allows you to have 16 satellites in the endgame. You'll probably end up with a 2x4 and end up raising the upper two uplinks once you can afford all the satellite nexi at the bottom. Some missions are downright impossible. Alien base assaults can have upwards of 60 aliens within them. Those infinitely healable alloy shivs are extremely useful on such missions, as you can probably imagine. If you are early in the game and you find a large alien transport UFO has landed, you could find 40 or 50 tough aliens on the mission. You might want to either just skip the mission, or try it and be prepared to flee at the first sign of failure. Success on such a mission would mean a great monetary and resource advantage, but it is not required in any way in order to be successful. Finally, there are some bugs in the Long War and XCOM in general. Here are a few I have noticed with particular regularity in the Long War. An enemy pod may be in range of your starting position on a mission. If this happens, you get one free move until they run into cover, so a rocket or a grenade shot right off the bat could be the best option. If you load the autosave from the geoscape and go back into the same mission again, you can get a new random placement of enemy positions, but a well-placed rocket or critical sniper shot usually makes up for the odd predicament the game puts me in, so I usually just go with it. Sometimes rockets do no damage, even though they hit. They destroy cover, but do no damage to anything in the blast radius. And I'm not talking about damage reduction, I mean they literally do no damage. I, nor anyone else, will think anything of it if you want to reload the autosave and take the shot again. The rocket should have done damage and it didn't. That is a bug. In Beta 13, when you complete the Ammo Conservation Foundry project that gives all of your weapons extra shots, it isn't coded properly in the game. If you have only one shot remaining in your troopers' guns, they will have the inability to enter Overwatch, and you will have to either reload or just take their shot. Additionally, if you have a unit with Ready for Anything in such a situation, you may actually get an additional turn with this unit. Theoretically, this is fixed in Beta 14. Sometimes the grapple on armor suits doesn't work quite right. This sniper was pulled into this position when attempting to grapple to the ledge near the rest of the units. Upon attempting it again, the grapple worked properly, but for some reason she was able to shoot after grappling, even though she did not have snapshot. It happened again on another mission, but at least this time the sniper was flying above the ground. A great position to take a few pot shots at the enemy before getting her back down to earth. And that's it. A few tips to hopefully help you through the nightmare that is the Long War. This was prepared with Beta 13 of the Long War in mind, so some information may change in future versions. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.